Okay, so I do want to speak about Hansi Flick. And I'm going to be giving you guys the context behind why we're even talking about Hansi Flick in the first place. So Xavi is going to be taking a year off after he does leave FC Barcelona in the summer. We all know this. Then there is a possibility of Xavi Hernandez going to a Premier League club because he's not going to be coaching a Spanish club. The only club he would go for would be FC Barcelona. So we know that Xavi Hernandez will be on his way to become a manager again after he finishes his current job this season. Now here's the most interesting thing. He does not rule off coming back. Xavi Hernandez actually does see himself returning back to FC Barcelona in the future. And this is what Xavi said: I don't rule out returning. Barcelona will have me for whatever they need. But right now, I think they don't need me. I have already made up my mind. I don't think the work is appreciated, meaning that Xavi is saying they don't need me right now. I'm not the correct coach, and it is quite clear. They need a much more mature, more experienced coach that can bring great results to this Barcelona team because the material is here to work with. And I'm like, okay, cool. So maybe Xavi might come back in the future. And here is going to be the way that I see things playing out. I do think that Xavi Hernandez will coach the Spanish national team. Yes, I know that we have just talked about him maybe potentially coaching a Premier League club, but I do see him coaching the Spanish national team until the 2026 World Cup. And then from there, I also do see him coaching a club once that World Cup campaign is over for another 2 years. Maybe until 2028 and possibly maybe even 2029, depending on how things go. So 2 to 3 years with the club and then about 2 years with the Spanish national team from 2025 until the summer of 2026. Great. That would mean that from the summer of 2024 to potentially Xavi Hernandez coming back maybe in 2028 or 2029, we have a 4 to 5 year gap where Barcelona can sign their next coach. And this is where I do want to welcome Hansi Flick, because I do think that there is a possibility that Hansi Flick could take charge of Barcelona for about 4 years at the very least. So from the summer of 2024 until the summer of 2028, most possibly. And it's crazy how this whole conversation about Hansi Flick is actually happening, because I did predict this. I did predict that Hansi Flick could be the next coach of Barcelona because he does not have any job. Joan Laporta likes German coaches. At one point back in the summer of 2021, or maybe even a few weeks after that, he was thinking about signing Hansi Flick and also having Ralf Rangnick as the sporting director of this club. That was the whole game plan of Joan Laporta because he is such a German fan. But this summer that we are coming up to, it is the perfect opportunity for Joan Laporta to say, okay, now I can flesh out my full plan. It just makes much more sense because back in that time of 2021, Hansi Flick was coaching the German national team. Joan Laporta even wanted at one point Nagelsmann, another German coach, but at that time also, he was about to embrace the job of taking on Bayern Munich. He was also looking at Jurgen Klopp, but he was with Liverpool. And so if you really think about it, this summer, not only is he going to be looking at Hansi Flick, but he's also going to be looking at Nagelsmann, who might even leave his job at Bayern because of how things are going there. And also he might have the opportunity to look at Jurgen Klopp, someone who is going to be leaving Liverpool this summer. So he went from having no options but to go to Xavi, but then to have all the German options this summer, now that Xavi Hernandez will be leaving. And like I've said, I think that everybody does want to see Hansi Flick as the next coach of FC Barcelona, which makes things very exciting. Yes, I know that Jurgen Klopp is someone who is probably much more credible than Hansi Flick, but at the end of the day, Hansi Flick has assembled probably one of the best teams that has ever played the game, which was the 2020 Bayern Munich team. That team was a plane. That team was an engine. That team was a monster. That team could not be stopped. And you and me saw that. We saw that team just fly through FC Barcelona back in 2020. And can you imagine that type of level being brought to this club with Pedri, with Xavi, with Lamine Yamal on the pitch? It would be a joy to watch. So Christian Falk, a journalist who is a very close source to Bayern Munich, this is what he said earlier today. Barcelona sporting director Deco contacted Hansi Flick on behalf of the club president Joan Laporta. Barcelona want to signal interest and tell Flick that he is on the list of candidates to succeed Xavi Hernandez. At this time, Hansi Flick has just been on vacation in Spain. Then he continues to say, Hansi Flick is a hot candidate to be Xavi's successor at Barcelona. Joan Laporta is pushing for him. The former German national coach is ready for a new challenge in the summer. A foreign league does appeal to him. Then Bild, again a source coming from Germany, also stated, Joan Laporta tried already in 2021 in a video chat to convince Flick, but after his rejection, Xavi was hired. So I'm telling you guys, this is real. Now here's the thing, club sources right after did deny to Mundo Deportivo that this isn't true, that Barcelona have not made no contacts with Hansi Flick. And let me tell you guys, this is what the club is expected to say. Like, of course they're going to be saying we have not talked to Hansi Flick. Of course they're going to be like, we fully support Xavi and that we're not looking at anybody else. Why would Barcelona or these club sources tell Mundo Deportivo that yes, it is true that we are contacting Hansi Flick? You really think that that is going to be healthy for the current state of Barcelona and in the middle of the season? So of course they're going to be denying this. But in the future, in the summer, for some reason, right, like always, things are going to drastically change and we're going to be hearing reports about Barcelona have always had Hansi Flick at the top of their list since like the beginning of this year. You better bet, like you can clip this. Like I'm literally going to tell you exactly what's going to happen. Barcelona will say, yes, we have been in constant contact with Hansi Flick and we have been planning for this since January. Now here's going to be the most interesting thing that I think will be the biggest thought that Hansi Flick is going to have to give. Barcelona are in a deep financial problem, and we know about this, and we have been knowing about this for the past 2 or 3 years. If Hansi Flick is really thinking about Barcelona and coaching this team with these group of players, he also has to think about the amount of pool that he will be having in the summer, which is no pool. Meaning that if Hansi Flick comes in, he's gonna have to understand that he cannot really bring the players that he wants. I mean, it's ultimately going to be depending on who, but Hansi Flick is definitely gonna have to be okay with the current material that Barcelona have, meaning that he's gonna have to be okay with working with Pedri, Xavi, Lamine Yamal, Fermin Lopez, Alejandro Balde, Jules Koundé, Araujo, Ter Stegen, Frankie de Jong, Gundogan, and all of these other players. He's gonna have to be okay with them. He cannot say, I want this player out, to bring me this player or bring me that player. He cannot do that. He's not gonna have that type of flexibility. So he's gonna have to really think about this and say, okay, with the current material that Barcelona have, can I succeed at this club? Should I do this? And if he says yes, then cool. But if he says no, I would understand, because he's not going to be having a lot of pool in the summer. He cannot say, bring me Kylian Mbappe, bring me Haaland, bring me Julian Alvarez, bring me a player like Gnabry, bring me Kimmich, bring me Florian Wirtz. Barcelona will not be in that state. And so if I was Hansi Flick, and I was really trying to be careful about my next step, because let's understand where he came from. He came from Germany, and throughout his tenure of coaching Germany, it did not go well. So I know that he's being very careful and very calculated on what his next move is going to be. But he's really going to have to ask, can these players that Barcelona have right now bring me the vertical aggressive football that I will be looking for? Because if we look at the Bayern team that we saw back in 2020 and 2021, they progressed the ball under pressure so well, and they always attacked with 7 men. So you have to be vertical, you have to be aggressive, you have to play extremely fast. Sometimes you have to even skip the build up and just make a long ball into the front three, or like in the front midfield or whatever, and attack as fast as you can and attack those spaces. Can Hansi Flick bring that with the players like Pedri, Frankie, Lamine Yamal, maybe Ansu Fati, who might come back in the future, Vitor Roque, etc.? Can he do that? That's something that he's going to have to really analyze. And so I'm assuming that maybe Joan Laporta will say, hey, look, you're not going to be having a lot of flexibility. We cannot really do so much, but what we can assure you is that we can sign one good world-class player. And that's basically it. Everything else is going to either have to be a loanee, a free agent, or we're going to have to work with La Masia. Deco is also going to be somebody very important on how he's going to be viewing Hansi Flick and what he could provide for him. And so let's think about this, right? If Barcelona only have one player that they could sign that can be world-class and that Barcelona desperately need, I feel like Hansi Flick will say, yeah, this club is definitely missing a world-class pivot. We need that more than anything else. If you give me one signing, I would say sign me a pivot. Look out there, go scout, see who is the best fit, because I need one of those type of players. And I feel like the player that Barcelona are going to be eyeing, and the only player that Barcelona will be able to sign, would be someone like Rodri or Zubimendi or Kimmich. It's going to be coming down to those 3 players. Yes, those 3 players are going to be extremely expensive, but like I've said, I feel like Barcelona and Joan Laporta are going to come down to saying we can only sign one world-class player and that's it. Everything else comes through free agents or from La Masia, and that's it. We're just locked in. We're too strapped. And that's why I do say, if we're going to be signing a pivot, he's going to have to be world-class. We cannot come in to the next season with Hansi Flick and say we can only sign a central defensive midfielder from Valencia or like from Osasuna or something like that. We cannot do that. We cannot repeat another Oriol Romeu, which is why I do say it's going to have to be somebody very expensive, and they're going to have to put all of their eggs in one basket. And it's going to have to come down to either Rodri, Kimmich, or Zubimendi, regardless whether it's more than 65 to 75 million euros. Barcelona will need to do that. And that is how they're going to be able to convince Hansi Flick that he should come to this club and succeed in the future. Because I do think that Hansi Flick can assemble a great team, and especially when you add just one more big signing to this squad. And I feel like the squad ideally, it would look something like this. With Ter Stegen in goal, we're going to be having Balde as our left back, Araujo, Kubarsi, and Koundé in the back 4, with our midfield being, I would say, Zubimendi, Frankie, and Pedri. And then in the front three is where things get very difficult because I don't know how he's going to be viewing the wings. I don't know if he's going to be okay with Xavi playing as a false left winger, or he's going to want to sign somebody else and say, hey, look, I want to have someone like Ansu Fati on the left, take out Pedri, and I want Xavi in the midfield because he gives me much more energy and the physicality that I need in the midfield. There is a lot of ways that Hansi Flick could tackle this. It is a little too early, but what I can assure you that a back four of Balde, Kubarsi, Araujo, and Koundé with Kimmich and Zubimendi forming the double pivot would be the most ideal scenario that Hansi Flick could go for. So it's very exciting and we'll see how it does evolve. Let's see if Barcelona can achieve this and bring the German coach to Football Club Barcelona. That is going to be wrapping up today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching and I will see you guys in the next one.